is the only video game that lets you beat the ever-living dog shit out of the current CEO of Unity in a Smash Bros. Style boss fight approved by Nintendo, and it was made in the Unreal Engine 2 tap-in. The main antagonist of Travis Strikes Back, the VM portion of TSA, who also shows up in the new No More Heroes 3 trailer, is Damon Ricciello. The second name, Ricciello, is interesting as the CEO in charge of EA while GHM were developing SOTD, was called John Ricciello. That's so sick.
I don't want to die! 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 I don't want to die!
I've still got somewhere to go home to. But you don't!
I don't want to die!
They know what they were doing. The former CEO sold stock. Unity bosses sold stock ahead of the scummy dev fees announcement. There's nothing you can do about this. Employees always lose out on situations like this. They have no control. They have no protections. The only tool that a worker has at his disposal in a situation like this, if you feel powerless in the face of this kind of corporate consolidation, in the face of this kind of parasitic activity from capital owners, is labor power in the form of collective bargaining that you can only express through the process of unionization. That's it. That's literally it. That's all you can do, okay? If you are unionized, if all sectors were adequately unionized, you could at least push back on these mass layoffs. You could at least push back on decisions like this. You would have a say in the process. You would have a stake in the company. That's it. There's nothing else you can do. This is the actual walk back, but
Unity have said fees will not be charged for installations of game demos unless the demo is part of a download that includes the full game or an upgrade to the full game. Early access games will still be charged for an installation. This means developers are less likely to do things like early access. Jacob Janerko, who's making the dungeon experience, tweeted, "Our game on release will now only be playable in my house with cash payment, and he is offering complimentary tea and a firm handshake." But don't worry guys, the Unity fee doesn't apply to gambling.
Thank God. That's great, man. That's great. Developers paying over $2,000 a year for Unity Pro plan would have to hit higher thresholds and will be charged with lower fees. The new fee system will begin in the start of 2024. Here, let's watch the MAGA Mail video on this, because apparently our fave, he made a video on it called "This Company is Scamming Game Devs."
Huge gaming drama. And there's one company in particular seeing all the money be made, and they want a little piece of it. And that company is Unity, who tweeted out today that they made a change to their business model, which includes new additions to our subscription plans and the introduction of a runtime fee. So we have to start at the beginning. What is Unity? And to clear that up, well, it is a game engine. It's a place where you make video games, and different developers use it to make games that you recognize, like Fall Guys or Cuphead or Hollow Knight or any of the games on this list, which are all amazing games. Okay, how does Unity make money? Or how did Unity make most of their money? Well, through a subscription service. You basically sign up monthly or yearly. There's different plans for an enterprise or an individual. There's even a free plan, and that's kind of how you get hooked. But recently, as they tweeted out, they want to make money in a new way. And this new way is the runtime fee. And in it, they say, as many of you know, the Unity engine is in fact two substantial software components: the Unity editor and the Unity runtime. Unity runtime is code that executes on player devices and makes made with Unity games work at scale with billions of monthly downloads. So basically, anytime you buy a game and then you go to install the game, you're also installing the Unity runtime.
You know what's really funny about this, by the way? They always literally try to claim that this is like a progressive tax, when it's like, that's not how commodity production works, okay? Like, no, you're just adding additional fees. This is an entirely separate planet than taxation.
In this example, we have a game that made $2 million in the past year and had 5 million installs, which surpasses both thresholds. If they were to have 200,000 installs from standard fee countries and 100,000 installs from emerging market fee countries, they would owe $23,500 in just 1 month. If that keeps going for a year, they would owe $282,000, or 14% of this $2 million revenue number that they posted, which is insane. 14% of all of the money you make is high. It is much higher than a company like Unreal Engine, a competitor, who charges a 5% license fee and does a revenue share system. And it doesn't just impact big devs, it also impacts some smaller indie creators, like one you might recognize, Danny, who tweeted out a meme here, because obviously no fees are retroactive. Oh shit, I guess I owe Unity $5.6 million, because he made Muck and Crab Game, which were huge games, 28 million downloads. And he used the Unity personal pricing, which was 20 cents per install. But even if you use the Unity enterprise pricing, that would still be like $280,000 owed. And again, to be clear, this does not charge a developer who hasn't made at least $1 million with their game, but it does set some scary precedents. Specifically, this meme. Unity is making this real. Pirate its game. Delete it and download it again 9 more times. Company loses $600. Is this becoming true now? Can there be campaigns to reinstall games?
Unity wanted to count web visits as an installation. Are you serious? Install definition. The installation and initialization of a game or app on an end user's device as well as distribution via streaming or web browser is considered an install. Games or apps with substantially similar content may be counted as one project with installs then aggregated to calculate the Unity runtime free. No shot. Yes, because Unity also works on browsers. Elwig is wrong. At least yesterday they stated the fee is retroactive for the last 4 years. That's insane. They're gonna like try and fucking claw back fees as well from like indie developers. Like what the fuck? Unity stock since yesterday's glorious announcement of charging developers per install of their game starting 2024. Yeah, except guess what? Unity bosses sold stock ahead of the scummy dev fees announcement. So they're fine. You know what I mean? They're better off than the people that will inevitably get laid off. They're better off than the fucking indie developers that will no longer be able to use that. Lol, they changed it over the day, turning a big dial that says business school on it and constantly looking back at the audience for approval like a contestant on a Price is Right. This has to make gamers more communist? No, it won't. Dude, this has been happening. Gamers hate EA and they don't understand why they hate EA. So then they yell about pronouns. Do you understand? This has not changed. In my lifetime, this industry has ballooned into one that is larger than the movie industry and the music industry combined. And yet, gamers do not have the mental fortitude to comprehend that this is just pure extraction, okay? It's extortion. It's capital owners ruining their experience and the art that they enjoy and consume. They hate microtransactions, they hate DLCs, they hate all this shit, and they don't even fucking understand the major reasons as to why this is happening. And then they end up becoming more and more reactionary as they fucking fling towards dumbass shit like fucking pronouns. Stop current daying us. It's corporate greed through and through.
We leverage our own proprietary data model, which gives us, we think, an accurate determination of the number of times the runtime is distributed. Basically, trust us, bro. Okay. Well, what about reinstalls or re-downloads? Would that count as multiple installs? Yes. The creator would need to pay full for all future installs. Okay. What about a demo? Like you release a game that costs money and then you release a demo and they have to install that demo, which also uses the runtime software. And it's like mostly no, but sometimes maybe. All right. What about pirated games? People who illegally download the game, but they're still running the runtime software because they have to do it to play the game. Well, again, trust us, bro. We have fraud detection practices. Basically, there is a lot of reliance on Unity, which is tough to trust right now because they can't even get their message out clearly. You remember how I just told you that they would be charging for multiple installs? Well, they walked that back today. Apparently, they're only going to charge for one installation of a game. But how do they track that? Are they able to track my multiple computers or multiple devices? What if I do it on console or PC or Steam Deck? It seems like there's going to be a lot of holes. And this has scared devs shitless. It has led to the least productive day in game development history. Here's one of the creators of Among Us talking about how they're thinking about how they would port the game away from Unity to a competitor like Godot rather than actually paying these fees because it would be cheaper to just do that. Here's Massive Monster saying, hey, we made Cult of Lamb. We like making games. We like using Unity. This shit sucks. We're going to stop using Unity. Here's Aggro Crab also signing up saying, hey, we have a game going to Game Pass. Can we actually trust?
By the way, this is also one other aspect of obviously like never-ending short-term profit seeking, but also the money faucet on the tech sector getting shut off. Since the speculative market is run on vibes and everything is on the speculative market, the stock market, when your unlimited supply of money goes away and the expectation from your shareholders is to constantly increase profit margins, constantly generate a quarterly earnings report that shows that you're in the green, that you're making money, where do you go? You go to people that are literally generating the value for you. Open source frogs are being commendably restrained so far. Bravo. I am an open source frog. I am a firm believer and big time advocate. I use open source software. I use OBS. It's the best. It is what the internet was created for. Now, obviously, not everything I utilize is open source. I still have an iPhone before you fucking yell at me and be annoying and and the closest I get to ever using Linux is through my Steam Deck. For the record, Game Pass, great for consumers, but not necessarily so great for devs in the same way that Netflix and that model is not great. The subscription model that is Silicon Valley tech disruption, right, has been massively shitty for people who generate the content, people who generate the value.